A thread by vocal distance. Want to know how activists in places like Portland take over roads, smash windows, light buildings on fire, and still have the press call them nonviolent? Well, as it turns out, these are well-trained activists using intelligent, highly developed tactics. Here's a primer. Protesters breach fence of federal courthouse in Portland as authorities declare riot. Elijah riot. Portland rioters light numerous fires outside federal courthouse. The media ignored their violence and vandalism, instead focusing on moms who come for photo ops hours before the action starts. Let's check out this one. Portland independent documentarians. The crowd responded to the volley by shaking the fence even harder. I heard one protester say, "This fence is blocking the bike lane." And then finally, Eric Patterson. Portland City Hall hit again by vandalism. Several windows are broken. Fire burning now where Elk statue used to stand. And a fence has SW 4th Avenue blocked at Southwest Madison. For starters, none of this is spontaneous. Note that many protesters have shields. These shields take 3 hours each to make and are created by a group of 25 volunteers working all day. You don't do that spontaneously. It takes planning. From Kata Gaitan, heading downtown tonight, here's a primer on Portland's protest shields. Where are they coming from? How are they made? Who is making them? A thread. It isn't just the shields that are planned. Everything is, from what protesters wear to the tactics chosen in each situation. The protesters also have a highly developed understanding of the information and media ecosystem and the tactics that work in that environment. The first strategy is to put their target in a decision dilemma. Ooh, look, decision dilemma. Veterans for Peace. I don't know if that's a man or a woman. I'm going to go with woman. This is where they select a method of protest that leaves the person with no good options. No matter how the target reacts, they look bad. All right, let's look at this. If you design your action well, you can force your target into a situation where they have to respond, but have no good options, where they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. In fact, many actions with concrete goals, such as blockades, sit-ins, tree sits, etc., require such a decision dilemma in order to be successful. Consider the blockade of a building. A tactically effective blockade leaves your target with only 2 options. 1, negotiate with you, meet your demands, or 2, react with force, violence against you, or arrest. That's a decision dilemma. Don't let your target walk out the back door, and don't put yourself in a situation where they can wait you out with impunity. You must force a clear decision dilemma. Without it, you let your target and or the police determine the success of your action rather than calling the shots yourself. Be sure to cover all the exits, literally or figuratively. That strategy is paired with the real action is your target's reaction. You want to use someone's reactions to your protest against them, i.e., blocking a road. If the police arrest you, play the martyr. If they don't, you now control the road. Those 2 strategies are used hand in hand to create actions which activists can turn to their advantage. When they do this correctly, they can create imagery that paints them as the underdogs, even when they are the aggressors. It's social and political jujitsu. Much of this is performative, but not in a look good to your peers kind of way. The principle is play to the audience that isn't there. Activists try to create actions that look a certain way to the audience on YouTube or watching the news. Please pay careful attention to this. Activists want to look like they are trying to change the minds of people they protest against, but that's just for show. They see their targets unrepentant evildoers that are just props in the drama they are staging. This is awful. Sometimes activists think they're out to change the minds of the bankers, CEOs, or others they're ostensibly targeting. It's one thing to pretend you're out to change their minds in order to stage a theatrically effective action that is often necessary, but it's another thing to believe it yourself. The idea that you can change evildoers' minds by gathering en masse outside their stronghold is not exactly supported by the historical record. Instead, Think of your target and your immediate audience as unwitting actors in the theater piece you're concocting for another audience that they're not even aware of. Okay, moving on. The next strategy is self-explanatory. Do the media's work for them. This is where activists make sure press releases and film footage that make them look good get into the hands of sympathetic journalists. This explains a lot of what gets on TV. Do the media's work for them. There's been a lot of sympathetic coverage in media. Much of it revolves around the so-called wall of moms. The media story is that these moms are acting to protect the protesters from vicious police. However, this is just another strategy from the same activist playbook. And that strategy is to, quote, lead with sympathetic characters. It's exactly what it sounds like. They put sympathetic people out front to garner sympathy and create the appearance of underdogs fighting an uphill battle against powerful interests. The protesters have a highly developed theory of protest optics. They understand videos can be sliced and diced to tell a certain story, so the story that resonates with people most wins. So they are intentional in trying to create moments on video that can go viral. That isn't to say they aren't also intentional in doing damage. They are. The book, Black Bloc, White Riot, Anti-Globalization, and the Genealogy of Dissent by author A.K. Thompson is the starting place for their theory of what counts as violence and when violence is justified. Here is Alex Hundert writing is rabble defending a diversity of tactics, which is a euphemism for allowing violence at protests. Hundert explicitly states a commitment to nonviolence is dogmatic and stifles debate about which tactics to use. So, the violence is intentional. Where the wall of moms is meant to win hearts, the Black Bloc is there to intimidate. If police react to the violence with arrests, the wall of moms is there so protesters can claim the police attacked moms. See how the game works? What I want you to get from this is that none of what you see is happening spontaneously. These are high-level tactics that are given to people supported by a well-organized protest infrastructure. Where do you think all the people making the shields come from? These radical protesters have organized an infrastructure to, in their words, disrupt, dismantle, and deconstruct your society. I don't want to scare any of you. I just want you to know what's happening because you can't push back against what you don't understand. Thanks for reading, and remember,
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.